10's Late News with Sandra Sully.
Tonight, rescuers put their lives on the line in wild seas. Saddam Hussein's new power play sparks a quick reaction from the United States, and how a father gave his dying son the gift of life.
Better than I was before.
Hello there. Also tonight, can it be true that the ozone layer is healing itself? A high-technology headache computers rank among a household's least reliable appliances. And a blast from the past, a 70s singer making an Australian comeback.
How long do get around, where do you come my way?
But first tonight, the odds are against 3 sailors missing in wild seas off the New South Wales coast tonight. The million-dollar yacht Excalibur overturned when its keel was ripped off, leaving 6 crew in huge seas. A coal ship picked up 2 of them. Police found the body of a 3rd floating in the water. A search resumes in the morning.
Conditions flying aren't too bad. Conditions for searching are absolutely horrendous. Low visibility, large waves, rain, wind, a lot of white caps in the water.
The missing people are from Melbourne. A major development tonight in the Iraqi-US standoff. The Iraqis say the United States has no reason to wage war now because they have agreed to let weapons inspectors back in.
American aircraft on standby for war at a desert air base in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi regime has given the green light to the Americans to use its air bases to launch strikes against Iraq, on the proviso that the UN backs the action. Iraqi President Saddam Hussein has held 3 crisis meetings with his Revolutionary Command Council over the past 24 hours, culminating in an Iraqi backdown on the issue of weapons inspectors at the United Nations in New York.
I have received a letter from the Iraqi authorities conveying his decision to allow the return of the inspectors without conditions to continue their work.
The move came after Arab states lined up against Iraq and new resolve in the UN Security Council to curtail Iraq's nuclear program. Kofi Annan crediting President George W. Bush with forcing the Iraqis to accept weapons inspectors again without condition.
A lot has happened in this building since Thursday. I believe the President's speech galvanized the international community.
The US remains sceptical, calling Saddam Hussein's latest move an Iraqi ploy.
We, the world, cannot let the world's worst leaders harbor and develop the world's worst weapons. This tyrant must be dealt with.
We are honest and open, and we believe in what we say, and we are prepared to bear the consequences.
UN weapons inspectors left Iraq in December 1998, claiming their investigations into weapons sites had been obstructed by Iraqi officials. And this is one site they'll be keen to examine when they go back, a pesticides plant 80 kilometres west of Baghdad, rebuilt over the past 4 years, but suspected of producing chemical and biological weapons. John Hill, 10 News.
But the standoff is far from over. The federal government has welcomed the Iraqi backdown, but warns Saddam Hussein cannot be trusted.
Returning from New York, Foreign Minister Alexander Downer gave the Iraqi backdown a conditional welcome.
Hopefully this is going to be an important first step, but we really will have to wait and see. I think for everybody they should be a bit cautious about this.
By question time, government caution was giving way to outright scepticism.
But the world would be deluded to naively imagine that this is the end of the difficulty.
Australia shares the international doubts that Saddam Hussein can be relied upon to match his words with action.
Given Iraq's history of misrepresentation, of pretending to do one thing yet doing another.
A point reinforced later by Mr Downer in his major report to Parliament.
Iraq's persistent defiance displays a clear pattern of lies, concealment and harassment that would be dangerous to ignore.
The apparent backdown by Iraq is a victory for the United Nations, but it doesn't remove the possibility that the United States, intent on regime change, could still find a reason to press ahead with its own military strike. That's a prospect which would put our government and our opposition on the spot.
And what we should be talking about is exhausting the diplomatic solution, not talking about going to war.
Surging in the polls on the back of anti-war sentiment, the Greens say Saddam Hussein's blink gives peace a chance.
And it must take war off the agenda as far as the Howard government is concerned.
Greg Turnbull, 10 News.
China's second most powerful politician has warned us to keep our nose out of his country's affairs. The man dubbed the Butcher of Beijing for ordering the Tiananmen Square massacre referred to the social differences between our two countries at a dinner of political leaders.
As long as both China and Australia can respect each other and refrain from interfering in others' internal affairs, we can live peacefully together.
Prime Minister John Howard says he hopes trading deals between the two nations will continue to grow.
The relationship between Australia and China is sound because it is built upon the important principles of mutual respect for each other.
There's some promising news tonight on the environment. Australian scientists have discovered the ozone layer is recovering after years of damage from pollution and could be fully repaired by the year 2050.
In the late 80s, the dire prospect of melting ice caps and blistering summers prompted the world to agree to save the ozone layer. Damaging chemical emissions were drastically cut, and it's finally paying off with levels falling.
And what we've seen over the last year or two is they are really starting to decline.
Australian scientists made the discovery in Melbourne, saying while some greenhouse gases still pose a problem and emissions from volcanoes don't help, the outlook is positive.
Taking those factors into account, we are still likely to see ozone recovery by 2050.
Great news for coming generations as the risk of skin cancer falls under Australia's harsh summer sun. The success prompting environmentalists to urge the Howard government to join the international effort to tackle greenhouse gas emission.
And it gives us heart that we really should now tackle climate change and ratify the Kyoto Protocol.
But the Environment Minister insists the Kyoto Protocol won't be able to stop global warming, dismissing renewed calls to sign up.
It deals with only 25% of global emissions. Most major emitters are outside the regime.
Brad Burke, 10 News.
Relief for our drought-stricken farmers with significant rainfalls across much of New South Wales. Useful rain has been falling since yesterday morning. These pictures of heavy rain from Orange, where 38 millimetres has been recorded since yesterday morning. Some parts of New South Wales say it's the best rain they've seen since June last year, and it may help prevent a collapse of the New South Wales grain crop.
Overall, where the majority of the crop is, and that's in the central slopes and southern slopes area, that's good substantial falls for that part of the world.
But this downpour is by no means enough to break the drought. Farmers say they need more rain like this over the next few weeks to really make a difference. A landmark federal court decision today ordering the removal of offensive material from an Australian-based website. The author faces a prison term if he fails to comply.
This is the website which the federal court today deemed offensive and insulting to the Jewish community. It claims it's unlikely there were ever gas chambers at Auschwitz, doubts the Holocaust occurred, and suggests Jewish people offended by the material are of limited intelligence. It had already been found to breach the Racial Discrimination Act, and today the court described the material as humiliating and ordered its removal.
The judgment, I think, is an historic victory for the campaign against racism and a body blow against racists everywhere in Australia.
And this is the man behind the site, Frederick Tobin, a man used to controversy and keen to spread his message at every opportunity. His latest mission to stage a High Court challenge.
The Zionist lobby in Australia, minority, they can deflect any criticism of their behaviour by labelling others racists.
It's not the first time Mr. Tobin has flouted the law. He's already served prison time in Germany for race hate crimes. And even after today's orders, he still insists he's only exercising his right to freedom of speech. The decision sends an ominous warning to anyone thinking of publishing similar claims of Holocaust denial on the internet.
If you have been vilified on the internet and thought it was just too complex to deal with, you now have some legal precedent. Look at the judgment and see if that will assist you in your efforts to maintain your human rights.
Amber Muir, 10 News.
A heartwarming story tonight about a father's gift of life to his dying son. In an Australian first, doctors took part of James Dixon's liver and transplanted it into his son with extraordinary results.
In a matter of hours, Mason Dixon went from a healthy 9-year-old to a critically ill little boy in a coma. Without warning, his liver totally collapsed, and with no organ available for transplant, surgeons asked his dad for help.
As a parent, you don't even think about it, it's just natural. You haven't got any choice, really, if there's not a donor available. Use what you can. I was thrilled to be able to do it and that it was available. We were blessed. It was sort of a miracle, wasn't it?
In an Australian first, 2 teams from the New Children's and Royal Prince Alfred hospitals performed a living donor auxiliary transplant. In a marathon 15-hour operation, the surgeons removed 20% of James' liver and grafted it onto his son Mason's diseased liver. This revolutionary procedure allowing Mason's liver to regenerate, reducing or eliminating the need for immunosuppressant drugs and their side effects.
Better than I was before.
He has an extremely good outlook and a much better outlook than with a complete transplant.
To see him like laying there unconscious to now, it's just amazing. It's a miracle.
With such a chronic shortage of organs available for transplant in Australia and with up to 30% dying on the waiting list, this alternative is set to save thousands more lives.
Surgeons say the procedure will revolutionise transplant surgery for people across the world suffering serious organ failure or disease. Natasha Belling, 10 News.
Stay with us here on 10. After the break, the household appliance that ranks up there among the least reliable. Also, a spectacular fire sparks a toxic emergency. And a 70s singer makes an Australian comeback.
How long is too long? Get around, where do you come my way?
You're watching 10's Late News. High technology is not always what it's cracked up to be. New research shows computers are one of the least reliable household appliances.
On the blink and costing hundreds of dollars. New research shows PCs are the most likely of all household appliances to break down, with 1 in 4 requiring repairs over the last 12 months. A choice survey of 2,500 households found microwaves, TVs and even the humble lawnmower are all more reliable than computers. Analysts say with both software and hardware components, computers are more complex than other appliances and prone to breakdown.
You don't load programs into your TV set or your microwave or your fridge, but you do load these external things into your PC, and they can cause problems.
Among computer manufacturers, Apple came up the most reliable, with 86% working without repair over the last year, followed by Dell and IBM. Non-branded terminals are the most likely to need repair. Experts advise when buying a computer, consider extending the warranty on your purchase.
If something does go wrong after the 2nd or 3rd year, when they replace it, they have to replace it with something bigger. You know, it might be a bigger hard disk, simply because they don't make the smaller size anymore.
Evan Batten, 10 News.
A vicious samurai sword attack has landed a teenager in jail for 3.5 years. The victim was slashed while he heroically tried to protect others.
Every step Boyd Dime takes is a reminder of his heroic actions. His right leg is wasted and he'll never regain full use of his left hand. The crippling injuries caused by a drunken teenager wielding a samurai sword in March last year. A group of girls, the intended victims.
I honestly think he would have chopped one of those girls' heads off, because I seen it come that close to Tanya's neck, and that's when I had the thought that I've got to stop this.
A melee broke out between 2 groups of friends at a park in Strathpine. The 20-year-old victim initially wanted to walk away, but stepped in when things turned nasty.
I could see how drunk he was, and that's why I said to him, put down the sword if you're angry, fight me, leave these girls alone. Not that I wanted to fight him.
He's the son of a soldier, and he went up the guts with heaps of smoke to save someone.
His attacker was flanked in court by friends. After submissions from his barrister, the 19-year-old was sentenced to 3.5 years jail, but could be released on parole much sooner.
All I think about is that I'm going to have my disability for the rest of my life, and he's going to probably do 15 months.
Along with his other injuries, Boyd Dime is now facing the loss of his right leg altogether. But placed in the same situation again, the reluctant hero says he couldn't walk away.
Can't stand to see people that can't defend themselves get attacked.
Friends and family said, don't you wish Boyd had just walked away? I said I wouldn't have expected any differently from Boyd.
Because of his injuries, the former labourer can no longer work. His assailant, Tony Lewis, will be eligible for parole in December next year. Nick Etchells, 10 News.
A blast from the past. After 3 decades, Partry family pin-up boy David Cassidy is back in Australia, and he's 50.
The last time he came to Australia, he had to be smuggled around in the boot of a car. 28 years later, David Cassidy can move around a little more easily, but he still pulls the chicks. In fact, like Tom Jones, he gets underwear thrown at him on stage.
I like to collect them and then put them on later on back at the hotel.
Okay. Getting into a little too much information territory there.
I didn't want to reveal too much about it.
It was 1970 when he was cast alongside real-life stepmother Shirley Jones in The Partridge Family, a role that spun off into a blockbuster career. By the time he was 21, he was the world's highest-paid performer, going on to sell 25 million albums.
How long is too long?
And he was the first star to be merchandised.
The David Cassidy comic book, the David Cassidy bubblegum cards, the David Cassidy pillowcase.
Did you get paid for all of this?
No.
Ah.
I was one of the very, very first to have sold $500 million worth of merchandise, and I made $5,000 US.
I think I love you.
I heard a whisper that your daughter has a singing career too now.
A whisper is what it is, isn't it?
That she recorded I Think I Love You?
Yeah, I heard that too.
So it's a rumour, it's not true?
I don't know.
Oh, how come?
Well, I don't live with her, and I actually only got to know her a few years ago. But yes, I understand that this happened.
David is set to come back to Australia in November for a national tour. Angela Bishop, 10 News.
Still to come in tonight's late news, we'll have the finance and weather reports. A spectacular fire sparks a toxic emergency. And in sports tonight, the AFL Tribunal hands out a hefty $24,000 fine to 6 players involved in a melee between Port Adelaide and Essendon. A toxic emergency on Queensland's Gold Coast. Huge flames fueled by a natural gas line and solvents consuming a plastics factory, and it spewed potentially deadly poisonous smoke into the air. It took fire crews 40 minutes to bring the early morning blaze under control. The owner is devastated by the loss, but he says he intends to rebuild. The plastics company had moved in only a fortnight ago. To finance news, and the news that Iraq has bowed to America's demands has driven the Australian share market to a stronger close. The All-Ordinaries index climbing almost 30 points. There were solid gains for blue chip stocks today. The Commonwealth Bank up by 42 cents. BHP gained 6, Qantas 7. Media giant News Corporation also did well. Coles Myer recorded a slight fall. One Australian dollar is buying 54.6 American cents. Gold is trading at $315.25. US an ounce. At Commonwealth Securities tonight, it's Tom Petrovsky. Tom, the breakthrough on Iraq certainly dominated the day's trade today.
So it was definitely the spark that ignited activity in markets throughout the region. And what we saw were shares up whilst the price of gold and oil nosedived. So locally, we saw broad gains in the market. It was up about 1%. Owners of insurance stocks have a smile on their face today. IAG, AMP and QBE all did better on the day. And what we've seen with the lower oil price, not only good for motorists, but it's also good if you happen to be filling up a jumbo jet as well. And we saw Qantas a bit firmer on the day. But the flip side to that was that we saw gold and oil producers are a bit weaker.
What about the reaction on world markets tonight? The US due to open shortly.
Yeah, well, at this time of night, we're always on the lookout for signs of what's going to affect our market tomorrow. And at this stage, European markets are up between 1% and 2%. Wall Street opens in 15 minutes' time, and at this stage, it looks like it's going to be up about 2%. So the very early signs for our market tomorrow are all looking quite positive at the moment.
At ComSec tonight, Tom Petrovsky. There's a missing millionaire in Queensland. The mystery gold lotto player hit the jackpot 15 months ago, but hasn't come forward to collect the fortune.
It's the only unclaimed First Division Lotto prize in Queensland, and it's got everyone talking.
I keep wondering about that one, but I don't think it is mine.
Oh, I'd be there in a flash if it was me, wouldn't you?
It wasn't me, I know that. I've been looking through all my old tickets and everything.
Worth just over $1 million, the winning ticket was sold at Logan Home's Hyperdome News and Casket in June last year. Problem is, the mystery millionaire didn't have a registered entry, making it impossible for them to be found.
You never know. Someone might have it sitting there in their glove box or on the fridge, you know. They might not clean their fridge maybe every 2 years or something, who knows?
Ever since word of the missing millionaire began to spread, people have been turning up in their droves and thinking up some incredible excuses as to the whereabouts of that prize ticket.
A lot of people have come in and said they've put it in the washing machine or the dog ate it.
Fortunately, Golden Casket holds on to the cash for 7 years, and you can make a missing coupon claim. So a word of advice for those entering Thursday's $30 million Powerball.
It's everyone's dream to win $1 million, and no one wants to miss out on that opportunity. So please register through our Winner Circle program.
Georgina Lewis, 10 News.
The news on the national weather is next, and then it's Sports Tonight with Tim Webster.
Sandra, thank you. The AFL names its team of the year. Andrew Johns confirms he is out for the rest of the NRL season. And a very embarrassing blunder from Aston Villa goalkeeper Peter Enkelman in the Premier League game against Birmingham City.
To the national weather report now, and from the synoptic chart tomorrow, mostly fine conditions in Cairns and Brisbane, windy conditions in Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne and Hobart, showers forecast in Adelaide tomorrow, sunshine is on the way for Perth, rain clearing in Darwin, and it should be sunny in the Alice. That's the latest from 10 News for this Tuesday the 17th of September, the year slipping by. Sports Tonight with Tim Webster's next. I'm Sandra Sully from the team. Thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow. Good night.